The growth definition. Professor Paul Samuelson, one of the most influential economists of the 20th century, put forward the neoclassical synthesis, which combines neoclassical microeconomics and neo-Keynesian macroeconomics. Let us now study Professor Paul Samuelson's definition of economics. The growth definition put forward by Professor Paul Samuelson in the book Economics: An Introductory Analysis, published in 1948. An American economist, PhD from the Harvard University, 1941, professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, advisor to two American presidents, John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson, in the 1960s, consultant to the United Nations Treasury, Council of Economic Advisers, and to the Federal Reserve Bank, won the Nobel Prize in 1970, Professor Paul Samuelson published the book Economics: An Introductory Analysis in 1948. According to Professor Paul Anthony Samuelson, economics is a study of how men and society choose, with or without the use of money, to employ scarce productive resources, which could have alternative uses, to produce various commodities over time and distribute them for consumption now and in the future amongst various people and groups of society. This definition includes all the issues that were highlighted in the earlier definitions on the one hand, and the issues of economic growth and development on the other, and therefore it is known as the growth definition of economics. The main features of Professor Paul Samuelson's growth definition are as follows: efficient allocation of resources, growth of resources, solution to the economic problem, dynamism, universal problem, comprehensive, and lastly, broader in perspective. Efficient allocation of resources. Like Professor Robbins, Professor Samuelson has emphasized the need for choice, which arises due to unlimited wants and scarcity of resources. Growth definition not only lays stress on the allocation of resources, but also on increasing resources and their proper utilization so that more wants could be satisfied. Thus, the definition gives a realistic explanation of economic problems. Growth of resources. The problem of scarcity of resources is not merely confined to the present time, but also to the future. Wants are not static, they are dynamic, they grow and multiply over time. Along with expansion of wants, resources also increase over time. Hence, we are not merely concerned with the allocation of given resources, but also with how the expansion and growth of resources is used to cope with increasing wants. According to Professor Paul Samuelson, available resources should not only be properly used, but efforts should be made to increase them and to satisfy more of the ever-increasing wants. Thus, Professor Paul Samuelson has taken a long-term perspective of the economic problem. Solution to the economic problem. Economics is concerned not only with identification of economic problems, it should also suggest ways and means to solve it. Dynamism. According to Professor Paul Samuelson, a dynamic approach to the study of economics and making economic growth an integral part of economics has been adopted. Economic growth is measured in terms of change in national product over time. This definition is concerned with the change in pattern of employment of scarce resources to produce goods and services over time. Thus, the dynamic problem of production has been brought within the purview of economics. This has widened the subject matter of economics. Universal problem. Professor Paul Samuelson's definition is not only dynamic in content, it is also wider in scope. It is applicable to all countries, whether rich or poor, capitalist, socialist, or mixed economies. It rightly emphasizes that the problem of resource allocation is universal in nature. Comprehensive. This definition is comprehensive as it has incorporated Dr. Marshall's welfare aspect as well as Professor Robbins' scarcity and choice aspect. Along with it, it is also growth oriented and future oriented. It's much broader in perspective. Professor Paul Samuelson's definition has broadened the subject matter of economics so as to include consumption, production, exchange, distribution, economic growth, etc. In short, Professor Paul Samuelson's definition of economics is the most comprehensive, satisfactory, and widely accepted definition. It covers all aspects of the study of economics. It presents the problem of choice in a dynamic setting and has made economics more flexible. Professor Paul Samuelson emphasizes growth, efficient utilization of resources to satisfy more human wants while keeping in mind the needs of future generation. It has widened the scope of economics and increased the universal appeal of economics. It includes issues that were highlighted in the earlier definitions on the one hand and issues of economic development on the other. Economics, therefore, as it stands today, is built on the basis of this comprehensive definition.